Okay, Adam in New York, you got your new radio here, so I'm just doing the computer stuff really quick to it. It should come up after I reset it with the yellow display color. You can obviously switch that back if you want to something else. I appreciate you ordering. This is yours right here. This one I am selling you, so the last one I did was a mail-in, which is fine. Same setup as that one, so they work really good. Okay, so we got all the bands. Alright, let's get this set up for you. I'm going to try to get it sent off to you today, just with the rest of the one from yesterday too. I missed the cutoff yesterday for UPS, so but I have it pre-scheduled today, so we'll get it heading your way. A little bit of conditions from the West Coast today. Alright, let's get this thing on the show on the road. So we're going to do 50 watts here, or as close to 50 as we can get, because they don't generally go to 50. Put my meter in RMS, so we can see here. It's about as close as it's going to get. It's going to be the low power FM. Hang on a second. Okay, sorry about that. He's in protection mode. So your FM deviation, obviously that's not scaled the right way, but you can see now we have a pretty good amount of deviation there. So I do turn that up to, it's about 3.95 or something like that kilohertz, so it's much better for an amateur radio experience. You know, for CB and stuff like that, yeah, 2 kilohertz is probably, you know, the legal thing to do, but I mean, this isn't a CB, so oops, what we got going on here? Wrong setting. I just want to check that transmit frequency on it, so let's go here. What do we got? Something's my reference not plugged in. No, they are. We don't have enough power. Let's just take a quick peek. There we go. I wasn't locking in on the signal, so that's perfect. So really don't have to adjust anything from there. So that's good. I think it's sampled here. Actually, can just increase that a little bit, and probably that would help. But yeah, she's looking good. So all this bird meter is for samples. You'll never see any movement here because it's the purpose of it isn't for that. So I just use it for the pass through. I have the bird sampler up here, so it's just passing RF, and this does all the power measuring. A much better way to measure power, I think, off that. Alright, let's set the dead key on AM. I go to 16. I don't think any more is necessary. I see guys sometimes that set them out 20, 25. I think that's too high, personally. If you need more dead key, you know, you can run an amplifier. I have a single tube amplifier here that I haven't been running lately, but it's a Russian tube, and it will, if I put 10 watts in, and the amplifier will increase that by 10 times, and then the PP, like with this radio, if I put 10 watts in and it does 100 PP, which is about what it would do, that amplifier would do 100 watts and peak on volt power with modulation on AM to 1000 watts PP. So it's basically whatever you put in, you get 10 times out. I like that. I mean, that's a good, 10 dB a gain is nice. So But not everybody's on board with that either. So I don't generally run anything anymore. I just kind of, once I've done the digital molds on HF and seen what I can do with such little power on such crappy antennas for, you know, not really crappy antenna, but what I'm trying to say is an antenna that's not effective at all really for the frequency that I'm using it on, and I've worked the world on digital molds. It's just kind of ruined me for wanting to run power on any band really. So I don't know. But I keep this stuff just in case. All right, here's your AM low modulation. And let's get this over here. It's coming in at about 70% right now, so 95-96% now. We have almost double our RMS from that 1 watt. So to make sure that we're not pinching the middle. It's a really fine line between that and that, so yep, that's good there. That's better. Okay. And they all pretty much come out the same, so really no surprises. Alright, let's do the high power. That Witch Doctor guy's got some good sounding modulation, I think. Alright, so there's that. That's about 93%. Just by lowering the dead key down, you gain modulation. That's why I say I don't like the higher dead key, because you get more modulation with the lower high power dead key. So you don't have to run it at 16 either. Okay, that looks pretty good there. So and there's your RMS of the single tone, about double. There's your PEP with the single tone. So we went from 16 to about 71. Alright, and there's what it shows with there. And we'll come out of there and look here, and that's how it looks there. I'll just bring that up, reference that up a little bit more, but what you see there is it looks really nice. You might not think that, when it's below the line here, that's below 0. Oops, I set it off reference. So it's not very much, and it's negative energy, so we're not bleeding with the single tone. Now with voice, the characteristic of the firmware takes over. So there's all these things built into these radios now with firmware. All we can do is adjust this radio for the best we can with tones, and go from there. Whatever happens with the firmware of the radio kind of takes over. So, and that's why these radios do so good from a low dead key, because they've mastered that in firmware. And that's why some of these other radios don't do very good on AM, because it's what was written in the code. Here's the sideband frequency. This is lower, actually upper side, so 27,206 is where we'd be. So we're really good there too, just to show that. I need to put this into two-tone though, so we're going to adjust this. Some of the radios do really poor in AM, which is a shame because they're nice radios, but it's more of a firmware thing. It's how the firmware was written, and they didn't want to push it beyond where they put it. So here's our two-tone. So they've kind of taken some of that ability away from us for the guys that like a heavier style of modulation. So the PEP on this with the two-tone is way too much. And that's why you have such a high RMS, and that's the same way I always look at these. So let's get out of this. So start adjusting. Our radio here for a second, so therefore we can get the better linearity out of the thing. Just 1 second. Okay, there, that's much better there. Just take a pause for the cause for a minute. It's looking really nice. And let's take a quick peek here. SC. So about 19 or something, so just a little bit more. Smooth it out. About 20, which is perfect. So now the radio is going to be way more effective on sideband. You're going to draw less current, which is good for everything. It's just all around better. So the only difference will be you won't see a lot of power fluctuation on the meter of the radio. That's the only thing you might notice that's different. But other than that, I mean, it's going to talk just fine. And this way, if you are running like amplifiers and stuff like that, I would be hard pressed to think that if you ran it the way it comes out of the factory on sideband, there's a good chance that if you don't know what you're doing with that heavy RMS on sideband, you're most likely going to blow something up, because that's just way too much. You know, I know guys like RMS on AM, but when it's high like that on sideband, it's more destructive than it is beneficial. So you really don't want that. And if you have it like that, those transistor style amps and stuff probably aren't going to last long running them like that. Or a tube amp for that matter, you're going to start shortening the life of the tube. So, and I'm not even one that really runs amps anymore. I just kind of like knowing I have them, but it's more just a simple fact of if I needed it, it's there, but they're not even hooked up. So here's AM. Now this is with voice. So we started at 16, 17, and as the radios heat up, the carrier kind of creeps up a watt or so. So as you can see, we're a little over double on the RMS, which is good. Okay, we'll come up here and take a look here. So it's pretty aggressive there, but it's not crazy, but it is nice. So it's nice to see something like this versus some of the other ones where it's kind of wimpy. Not that they don't sound good, it's just what it is. So it's all about what you want. Here's your peak envelope power, so it's pretty much right at 100 watts there, as you would expect. So you know, the stuff that I do isn't going to get you more power. I'm not going to try to sell anybody on power, because it's not about the power. You know, you can get power from other sources. So let's back this down to that's close enough to 4 watts, so you can see where that's shown. It's pretty low. I'm going to show you when you talk, you pretty much, you could almost consider this like a modulation indicator. It's showing you got pretty much all the modulation. Hello radio. So from 4 watts on RMS, you can see sometimes we're tripling the RMS, which is pretty good, I think. You know, it's not always going to be like that, but there are times where it is. So here's how it looks there on AM. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Check. Cool. So pretty consistent even at that lower level. This is where it really shines. So you know, you're not always going to hit that full mark, but I guarantee the modulation is really loud right here. You know, when it comes to driving something, sometimes you do need a little bit lower input with the heavier modulation to drive something, and this will give that to you. So that's what's good about these. So now we'll just go over to sideband, and we'll turn that back up all the way on sideband. So as you can see now, the radio is still somewhere upwards 80, 90. Sometimes it'll hit 100. If the radio wasn't as hot right now, it would hit 100 probably. But as they heat up, you sometimes lose a little bit of the top end. It's normal. I mean, they're MOSFETs. They're not the best Definitely not the best power amplifier stage for these radios, but it's what we have, so it's all we can work with. They obviously work, and if you're paying attention to how you run your equipment, they're pretty durable. They last. So, you know, I think when people say that they've blown finals, which I haven't ever heard that lately. It's been a really long time since I've heard someone say that they've blown finals in a radio. So I think that guys are definitely more cautious how they're running their equipment. Now, have I burned stuff up before? Absolutely. I think a lot of us have. And you know, the main thing to take away from that is when you do something like that is to try to learn from that experience and not do it again. But that's pretty much it, Adam. So it's definitely working good. I don't have the antenna option to hook up over here. No, I don't have it hooked up, so that's how it looks on sideband. So it's not going to show full deflection there, but you can kind of catch the drift there. So we're just going to run this on the signal generator really quick. And hopefully it doesn't bother too many guys that I got the radio on in the background, but I like to listen to the radio sometimes. I'm more of a type of operator that just listens more than I talk, and I can get my enjoyment out of radio just by listening. And I'm not always just a sideband guy, so sometimes I don't mind listening to channel 6. That seems to be where the most guys are. Hang on, let me get this hooked up. Alright, so here's the receiver on it. This dumb cable in the way kind of, but we got 100% modulation on AM with minus 126 dBm, so that's pretty good. Obviously we got a little bit of a signal there, and you can hear the tone, so I'd say that's pretty darn good. Actually, let's go to AM. Actually, we're in the wrong mode, sorry. Let me back that up a little bit. There's 124, negative 124, and a little bit of that tone still in there, so that's good. Now we'll go to sideband. Upper, kill the modulation because we don't need that. There's minus 130 dBm, upper sideband. The radio's still able to fully copy that. I'll turn on the noise reduction for you on level 1. Just make sure you leave that setting on, it's important. Okay. That just kind of quiet down the receiver a little bit. I don't really run an RC on my radios anymore. Sometimes I do, it just depends. But I usually don't go past level 1, so that's just my personal preference there. Alright, Adam, I thought maybe on my dummy load. There we go. When the big stations come in, they take me out. But there, I can hear myself now. Hello, radio. 1, 2, 3, check. Alright, cool. I did put a little Roger beep in here. I forget to always show that, but it's here. It's under RB, hit function, and number 6, and then you can just hit any button. Whoops. Function to get out of that, and then function. Whoops, you can just key the mic actually. I'm sorry. Just switch program off. Get that stupid. I don't like that. I'm partial to the yellow or the orange. It's actually orange, although to me it looks kind of yellow. But now we have a Roger beep. I'll turn the talk back on so we can hear it. So that's the Roger beep I put in most of the radios that have the programmable software. I usually put it on the last option. Again, I'm going to switch that off for you. Off. You have all the other ones too, and then you can just switch that off. Hello, radio. Hello, check. 1, 2. Okay. Yep, so we're good to go. I hope you enjoy it, and I will get this heading your way today. 73.